welcome back to my channel. So if you're new here, my name is Shelby. I am 26 years old. I have been married for about a year and a half now, and I enjoy posting vlogs and kind of finance videos while I'm on the process of becoming debt-free and specifically paying down my student loans. Today's video I thought would be fun to do a payday routine. I actually just got paid today. Today's March 1st, and both my husband and I did get paid, so I thought I would walk you guys through kind of my little process for my little payday routine. Now, I will say this is a very new routine. I'm just trying to kind of better manage my money, so I am trying this routine out, and I thought I would just share with you guys. So if you're interested, then just keep watching. Okay, so I do want to start this video out by saying that my husband and I do share our finances. I know that that doesn't work for everybody, but it is what works best for us. So you just need to kind of think through your situation to determine the best way that you and your significant other should go about finances. I know many people do it totally separate and then maybe have one shared account for bills, etc. We just found it's easier just to share it all. So that is what we do. But I did want to first walk you guys through maybe our different accounts to kind of give you more insight into that. So we have our main checking account, and that is the account that, you know, we get paid into, bills come out, etc., stuff like that. And then we also have a short-term savings, and this is through our bank, so it's the same exact bank, so it's very easy to transfer funds. And this is a short-term savings account, so this is where we put, I guess you could say, like, sinking funds. So, you know, while we were saving up to fix our Suburban, we had our money there. Our travel money kind of goes in there and just sits there. That way we can easily get to it when we need to, because other accounts, sometimes if you're taking, it could take a few days for the money to transfer. So we have found we like having this short-term savings account for that. And then on top of that, we do have 3 high-yield savings accounts currently. So our first one is our house account, and this is where we save for, you know, bigger projects or just have money sitting in there, so that way if stuff comes up, we can obviously transfer it. So for example, we need some trees cut down in our property, so we will have to pull from there eventually. So we're saving, putting money into there because it's in the future, but it's not like right now, if that makes sense. Or if, like, we're going to be doing a renovation anytime soon, we'll just save money into that. That way, you know, it's earning interest, and then whenever time comes, we can pull if needed. Or, you know, if it just, like, stuff comes up, like we need a new washer and dryer, we have money there. So I think that that is very important for us, at least, because we do live on land and stuff comes up with the house all the time. So the second savings account we have is an emergency fund. And before we even started paying off any debt, we actually put all of, not all of our money, but we did save up a specific amount that we were comfortable with in our emergency fund. That way, if something ever were to happen to one of our jobs or something huge comes up, we do have that emergency fund that we can pull from if needed. And then our last savings account is our long-term savings, and that is our highest account, and we don't touch that at all. Right now, we're just kind of putting money into it. I do think we're going to try and start investing that in the near future, but not quite there yet. That's honestly a little overwhelming for me, to be quite honest, so we haven't started that yet, but we do just like to put money in there as well. And then on top of that, we also do have credit cards, and that is, we don't use those too often, especially because for me right now, I'm trying to pay my credit card debt down. But, you know, sometimes things come up that we will use, like put expenses on, and then we'll just pay it off at the end of the month. But for the most part, I would say most of our bills and expenses do come out of our checking account. So that is just the way we do things. I know some people will have like a separate account just for bills, and they'll transfer money into that account and then pay their bills through that. I know some people put all of their expenses on a credit card and pay that off at the end of the month, which if we can get to a point, that would be kind of cool, because I know you can earn like points and cash back. So that might be something we look at in the future, but just right now, that's not really our goal. This is just kind of how we do that. So I want to go ahead and preface all of that and give you guys a little bit of backstory on how we do that. So with that being said, let's go ahead and actually get into the payday routine. Okay, so this is my spreadsheet that I use to kind of track all of my my budget for the month. I just found this off of Etsy. You can get so many different ones and different types. This is just the new one that I'm trying out this year. So if you see over here, we have our income. And like I said, today is March 1st. So both Jacob and I are on the same pay cycle. So we get paid every 2 weeks. And I also got a bonus for work from here. Not anything crazy, but I did get a little bonus. So let's go ahead and kind of talk about income. So my paycheck did end up being exactly what I thought it was going to be, $20.80. And then Jacob's paycheck was actually higher. So he made, I think he made like $19.30, and I only budgeted $1,500. And I did that because $1,500 is how much he gets paid for 40 hours. So anything extra is all of his overtime, and I do not like to budget his overtime because that's never promised. And I just think that's really important. I always only want to budget what he would make in a 40-hour week. So we're going to go ahead and put that like $19.34 here. And then like I said, I did get my bonus, and it was like $1,000 bonus, but I think with taxes it ended up being like $835. So that is kind of where we're looking at with income so far. Now, the very, very first thing I want to do is I'm actually going to take the difference between his actual money and his expected. So we'll just let's just insert a little. Normally I do this on my phone, and since I'm like filming, we're just gonna walk you guys through it. I'm gonna take the difference between these two, which didn't work. Love that. Did I mess up? I did. Which is $434 plus, and then we're going to add the two of these. So that's $1,269 that we're immediately going to put into savings. So while we're thinking about it, I'm going to go ahead and transfer that money now because, like I said, I don't want to budget it. My bonus I want to account for in my debt payoff. So we'll kind of talk about that in a minute, but I just want to take that out because I don't ever want to use that for our expenses and bills. So I'm going to go ahead and transfer that money out. Okay, so now I'm going to delete this. I know this probably seems kind of like silly, and there's probably a better way to do it, but I usually just do this all over here. So we're going to go ahead and put this at $1,500, and we're just going to take this out for now. Pretend like it didn't even happen. So with that being said, we have $35.80 that we have in income to spend for the first 2 weeks. Now the first thing I'm going to do is go to my bills. Okay, so like I said, we're going to go to my bills. So here is my little bill summary over here, and we're going to think about what bills are going to come out from between the next 2 weeks. So like I said, I got paid today, March 1st, and then I'll get paid again on the 15th. So we're going to see what bills come out March 1st through March 14th and just go ahead and pay those so that way they are taken care of and we can see truly how much left we have to spend. So the first bill that will come out obviously is our mortgage, and that'll come out today since it is the first of the month. So let's go ahead and account for that now. All right, and then the next bill that is going to come out is my credit card. So my payment is $75 this month. So that comes out on the 4th. So we'll account for that. And then one thing I do like is over here to the right, we can see kind of how much we had left to budget, which I did a whole March budget with me video. So if you haven't seen that, go watch that. But then right here, once you put your income in and start taking out your bills and expenses, it'll tell you how much left you have to spend. So already we're only at $1,000 left to spend. And I will say that the first half of the month is very heavy on our bills, especially because that's when our mortgage comes out and that bill is just astronomical. So that's a whole other story. But obviously the first half of the month, we tend to be a little more stringent than the second half, just due to, you know, the way things roll. And I'm going to get ahead of myself. Let's just keep going. So then my electricity does also come out at the beginning of the month. I think it comes out on the 10th. And then my phone bill also comes out. So we'll go ahead and pay that. And then my internet, I actually just got the bill for that, I think it's like $99 exactly. So that is my bills. And let's look and see where we are at now. So we're at $580 left to spend. Now, I will say I do keep a buffer in my account, and my buffer is always at least my highest bill. I know some people will like spend like every single dollar, or I mean, everybody has their own way of doing this, but I just like to keep that buffer because sometimes the pay cycles do kind of get out of whack a little bit. And I always just want to have enough money at the beginning of the month to pay my highest bill, which is my mortgage, because obviously you need to pay that. So I do keep that in there, and I do think it's hard when a lot of my higher bills do come out at the front end of the month. And so at the end of the month, I will have a little bit more money to spend, which we will see. It's just kind of the nature of things. So, you know, it is what it is. So with that being said, we have $580 left to spend. Now, I do know that some people like have their bills automatically set up to withdrawal, and I do have that for a couple, but I do also physically like to pay some of mine, for example, my mortgage, because I just always want to make sure that I have enough money for that. So I usually just personally will pay it, you know, within the first few days of the month. And then the same with my credit card, because I like to watch the credit card and I like to just be very careful with that. So I personally do that one as well. Electricity, phone, internet, those are all like automatic withdrawals. So that's like, those are easy. They just kind of come and go as you see. The same with like my student loans. So like my Sallie Mae, my Discover, those are automatically just pulled whenever they're due. So I don't really worry about those too much, but my mortgage and my credit card, I like to do them myself. And then we do have, our car insurance is a bill that we don't, let's see how to phrase it. We pay it in 6-month increments because I found it is cheaper that way. So instead of just paying like the insurance company itself every month, I just put the money into savings, and I just take like the 6-month balance and divide it by 6. That's how much I save each month. So this one doesn't necessarily have a date, so I'll just pay this one whenever like I have extra money in the month at whatever point that may be. So obviously I'm not going to pay that one now since I am a little bit low on money. Not low on money, but I have $580 and I know I'll have more at the end of the month, so I'll pay that one towards the end. So that is kind of my bills. Now let's go ahead and go to expenses. I will say I know some people automatically will take an X amount of money, whether that's like $50 or $100 from every paycheck, and just immediately put that into saving. And I think that's great, and maybe one day Jacob and I will get to that point, but right now our focus is so high on paying off our debt that that's just not really what works best for us. And like I said, I usually will do like a big dump at the end of the month for savings, which we can talk about that in a minute, but that's kind of the other thing that I know some people do that we just don't do, because that's just not really what works for us in our current stage of life. So that is that. Let's go ahead and talk about expenses. Okay, so now that we have talked about our bills, let's go ahead and talk about expenses. Now, this is kind of like a little iffy, but I did tell you guys how sometimes we will put some of our expenses on our credit card. So the first thing we do is just go through that and make sure there's no like fraudulent charges or anything. We don't usually pay our credit card off yet. That usually becomes probably towards the end of the month if there's any charges, just because like I said, I do think the beginning of the month is a little bit harder on us financially because we do have our big bill come out. So with that being said, that's just one thing I think is really important, because not so much, I do it with our checking account as well, but I just extra watch our credit card for fraudulent charges because I do think that that is where it's more likely to show up. So I will do that. Like I said, I won't always pay it off, but I'll just kind of like double check, and we check that pretty frequently. Just, you can never be too cautious on that. So I do think that's important. So if that's something you're not doing, I would strongly recommend doing it for both your credit card and any like checking accounts you have. And I also will just kind of see what charges I do have, so I know that I have a balance that I will need to pay, so I don't necessarily like forget about it, I guess, towards the end of the month. So I'll sometimes write that down if I know that that is. So I will sometimes put any like balances down on my tracker. If you see down here, I do have this transactions tracker where I'll account for that just so that whenever I go to pay my credit card off, I don't forget about it. I think I totally rambled. Sorry, guys. So that is one thing I do think is also important. So let's talk about expenses. So this is another reason I like to just go ahead and have a buffer in my account, and I'll explain why. So like I said, we have $580 left to spend for these 2 weeks, and all we've done is pay bills. That's not a lot of money when you start thinking about it, especially once like groceries come into play. So I do try and keep this in mind. So for example, I don't know, we might spend like on average probably $150 a week at the grocery store. So you're already at $300 there. So let's go ahead and put $300 in here for groceries. Now we're at $280 left to spend. So I'll just kind of look here, see what is like jumps at me. Another thing is Jacob's spending money comes out at the beginning of the month. He just wants his in cash, so we always withdraw that at the beginning of the month. And now we're at $160 left to spend, and that's not even including like gas and diesel for our vehicles, which obviously transportation to and from work. Thankfully I work from home, but Jacob doesn't, so we do just try and be very mindful of that. Our groceries, I think we do spend way too much money. I've talked about that in all of my budget with me videos if you've seen. And then on top of all that, you have eat out. So we try to eat out once, maybe twice a week, and it's usually always on the weekends. Sometimes with family, sometimes just Jacob and I, just as something to kind of do, whether it's we order pizza or we go to Mexican food. So we also have that to consider with this $160 left to spend. Another thing is like toiletries, my spending, pet stuff. So it is definitely hard. And if anybody has any like recommendations for this, please let me know. But as you can see, we're probably going to spend over this on our expenses and be under, so we'll have like a negative balance. But like I said, the only bills that we have that come out the second half of the month are these, which is what? Less than $1,000, and then we will be getting paid, you know, easily triple that. So it will kind of come out at the end, if that makes, like, it'll even out at the end. And that's why I've said it like 5 times in this video, but we do keep a buffer for that exact reason. Now, you probably have noticed the elephant in the room. We have not put any money towards debt and savings, and I've kind of alluded to this throughout this video, and I think it's probably pretty obvious, but I do this at the end of the month, and I know everybody probably has a different opinion on that, and that's totally fine. But like I've said, right now our big goal is debt payoff. So I've already got, what was that, like $1,200 that I have already put aside, so that'll either go to savings or debt payoff. And then also at the end of the month, whatever we don't spend, so there will be like a difference here. So you can see we've planned for $23.52 in expenses, and we've spent $420. And so if there's a balance here, this will also automatically get put into that little like capsule or whatever you call it, that bucket. And at the end of the month, I'll decide kind of how to allocate it, whether it is paying off our debt or putting it into savings. And then on top of that, this is a 3 paycheck month, so it is a little bit harder, but I do have planned to go ahead and pay off my credit card. So that's $25, which is awesome. And then this is our savings. So we have $1,000 that we want to save for our Disney trip, $500 for our house, and then $700 for our lean-to. So that is another thing. But like I said, I don't do that until the end of the month. So maybe I could film like my end of the month payday routine. That might be kind of interesting. Or actually, I'll probably just show that at my like March closeout budget video. So that is kind of the way I do things. Now, I will say, since this is a 3 paycheck month, these numbers are significantly higher than usual. I think the biggest thing that I'm trying to implement now is immediately putting away any of overtime that Jacob gets, so we don't even like see it basically, so we can't spend it if it's taken out of the account, obviously. So I think that will be really good, because we do need to get into a better mindset of that, because I do think sometimes we overspend and end up needing to pull that. Now, things do come up with the house all the time, but that's why I do think it's important to have your various sinking funds for that. So that's just something we are really trying to be extra mindful of now and going forward. And I think kind of having this strict payday routine will really help with that. So with that being said, I think that is going to conclude my payday routine. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Stay tuned for the end of this month, because I do think in my end of the month closeout video, I think that'll be interesting to see how much money I'm actually able to pay off in debt and savings. So stay tuned for that. I think that'll be a good video. And anyways, I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.